Next to glaciers, waterfalls, and volcanoes, Björk is the best-known thing about the country of Iceland.
Björk is an Icelandic artist, producer, singer, songwriter, and DJ. We all remember her from the Oscars, where she wore that unique and shocking swan dress.
Björk's done more for Iceland than any Viking or Ash Cloud ever did. This is an artist who appears in Rolling Stone's top 100 songwriters, Rolling Stone's top 100 singers.
She became famous at 11 years old, a beautiful singer. Some people think she's kind of odd.
Everything about Björk is quirky. Her route into music is really interesting.
Her mother was an activist who protested against the hydropower plant in Iceland, and her father was a prominent union member.
She'd have had a very politically aware background, which is something that masquerades in all of her sort of music.
They had actually divorced by the time Björk was born, so Björk ended up moving in with her mother to a commune.
Her stepfather was a guitarist in quite a prominent Icelandic band, and so she had these two factors in her life of music and politics and being aware of the world around her.
People saw that Björk had musical talent, so at the age of 7 she was already enrolled in a music school where she studied classical piano and flute. From there, her talent exceeded everyone's expectations, and at the age of 11 she performed at a recital. Now that song that she performed at that recital was aired on a radio station, and no sooner did she then get offered a record contract.
Which totally shows how precocious and talented and how interesting her background is.
Her musical talent has been prolific across a range of styles.
Throughout her teens, she was in a series of bands from punk to jazz fusion to rock to more eclectic offerings.
Björk performed in a couple of punk acts to start with. One was called Snot and Spit, which is obviously the ultimate punk name.
In 1980, she formed a jazz group called Exodus and then collaborated with another group called Jam 80.
She was married to Thor Alden in 1986, and they had a son. But the relationship did not work out.
By 1986, Björk formed a band called the Sugar Cubes with members of her previous bands. This was the start of her international career.
They had a number of hits in the late 80s, a song called Birthday and a song called Hit. They played that sort of records that you wouldn't instantaneously know perhaps, but then you'd hear them in your favourite films, you'd hear them in a trendy coffee shop, you'd hear them on a playlist or a soundtrack, and you'd know the songs. And just as they were becoming really big, I suppose they ended.
Björk moved away from Iceland to focus on her solo career. She was an instant hit.
The early 90s was when Björk really went solo, even moving to London to kind of, further her solo career. It was there she had her first kind of hit on her own with her debut album, Human Behavior, and ended up becoming NME's Album of the Year. And it ended up going platinum in America too, so it was quite instant success as a solo star.
She had this massive moment in the 90s.
Björk, it appeared, was everywhere.
One minute she's on stage at Glastonbury, the next she's at the Oscars wearing a dress that looks like a swan and the head's around her neck. And if Gwyneth Paltrow had done that, it'd be ridiculous, because it's so perfectly Björk. It's humorous and funny and interesting, and that's exactly the kind of character that she is. And 90s pop has got so many different interesting people, Oasis, Wigfield, Britpop, all of these other kind of things going on, and yet Björk created this moment for herself, particularly in the mid-90s, where there was Venus as a Boy, Army of Me, and everybody knows It's Oh So Quiet. That was a song that was chucked on every advert going. You could sell cars with it, you could sell paint with it, you could sell anything with it, and most importantly, you could sell Björk with it. Björk appeals to sort of avant-garde fashionistas, but you could play a Björk song and it'd get your nan dancing at a wedding. I mean, that's the sort of artist that she is, and that's why she's had hit records in 4 different decades. While she's such a shining, interesting character, she would naturally attract attention, she's also very different in terms of celebrity, that most of it's behind a veil. I wouldn't know what Björk's personal likes and dislikes are. I wouldn't know what restaurant she hangs out in. I wouldn't know what nightclub she goes to. I wouldn't know anything. And in many ways, as she's Icelandic. It's, you know, she comes from a population of less than sort of 400,000 people. You'd imagine that she prefers a quieter life.
But what Björk didn't know was that she had an obsessed fan, one who was going to turn her so-called quiet life on its head.
At some point, this guy, she entered his orbit, and that was it.
I'm gonna show you who I am. Oh! Oh. I am a monster. Oh! Oh. Can you see me smiling at you?
Björk's fan was 21-year-old Ricardo Lopez.
Ricardo Lopez was born in Uruguay and then moved to Georgia with his family. He was raised in a middle-class home. He had a brother with whom he worked in the pest control business.
We know that his family was very loving. He was very loving, sweet, but he was also very quiet and stayed to himself.
He didn't have much to do with girls when he was growing up, and he always felt insecure and had low self-esteem.
He wanted to be famous for his art. He was interested in art, he was interested in sort of music and all of these things.
But he was so afraid of being rejected that he didn't even apply to art school.
He was very socially awkward. He was incapable of interacting with new people he didn't know readily already.
Lopez was a fantasist.
He would sit at home in his room and begin to fantasize. First, he fantasized about Gina Davis. He was in love with the actress Gina Davis.
He realized that she was in a relationship with one man and then went into a relationship with another.
The beginnings of Ricardo's unraveling were quite evident quite early in his life.
And so you've got these two great conflicts in Ricardo Lopez's life. Desire to be famous, desire to be recognised, desire to be on stage or to be an artist, and simultaneously scared to talk to people, scared to put his work out there, scared to face this rejection that any artist would face in their natural career progression. And so socially awkward meets desperate for celebrity, and it eventually projected itself onto this obsession with Björk. The media was different in the mid-90s, although it seems very close. In media terms, it was millennia ago almost, because there's no social media, internet's absolutely in its infancy, and you know, his obsession was fed on scraps.
He began collecting cuttings about her, writing her numerous fan letters, and it progressed further and further until it became quite disconnected from reality.
And so every single snapshot he would obsess over.
By 1993, Lopez was fully committed to his fantasies about Björk.
Ricardo Lopez thought he found his muse and eventually believed that they were meant to be together. And that's a very common thing, where something called erotomania, where a person believes that someone is actually in love with them. He thinks that Björk is supposed to be with him and that he may actually receive signs or clues from Björk in her performances, in her art.
He wrote her fan mail, letters, and so on. And those people that knew Ricardo Lopez at that time said to him very directly, you've got to get a real life. This is all in your mind. You're not going to be part of Björk's life.
Lopez began to commit his thoughts to paper.
He began writing this obsessive diary about Björk, but it was all about all kinds of things. It was about his anger that he couldn't get a girlfriend, he was overweight, he had gynecomastia, which is male breast tissue.
We know about Lopez's life and his psychological makeup because he wrote an 803-page diary revealing all of his thoughts and so on. The diary starts almost immediately talking about suicide. His handwriting is very, very precise, and it's very, very legible. And then for 803 pages, he speaks about his obsession with Björk.
In looking at these pages of his diary, this is where we see his descent into what really is a madness.
He spoke about creating a time machine. In his mind, he wanted to go back to Iceland, where Björk was from, and grow up with her. He wanted to be her friend. He wanted to be part of her life.
He dreamed of showing sort of his artwork and being part of Björk's arty circle.
He cited her as his artistic muse at one point, and even said that he wouldn't have sex with her because he loved her so much.
During the time period for those 2 years when he became obsessed with Björk and was writing his diary and talking about her all the time, he functioned to some degree. He worked in his brother's business, he talked to his brother, he talked to some of his brother's friends. His fantasy life about Björk, the intensity of it anyhow, was kept internal, kept private. Those people that knew him, particularly his brother and some of his brother's friends, said to him several times, they said, Ricardo, you've got to get a life. That this is in your mind. You're not having a relationship with her. You got to meet an actual person. It didn't mean anything to him. He lived in his mind.
What is initially a great fondness and love can then turn when that person, the object of their obsession, does something that they don't agree with or support.
Björk's own personal life was about to have an impact on how Ricardo Lopez viewed her.
Things started to go wrong when she started dating the drum and bass DJ Goldie.
He read a magazine article. It was about Björk, and it spoke about her relationship with Goldie. This enraged Ricardo. He was so angry that he had just wasted 8 months of his life dedicated to Björk. But what was more enraging to him was the fact that Goldie was black.
And that just turned his world upside down and changed everything.
He began doing these video diary entries with all these ideas about how he was going to punish Björk for this relationship. This is pre-kind of internet, pre-streaming, so it was all just on these videotapes.
The diary began in January 1996.
My name is Ricardo Lopez. It is January 14th, 1996. Today's my birthday. I'm 21. And I will begin a documentation of my life, of my art, and of my plans.
He terms it as an art project, but really it's just this great unravelling of all this pent-up stresses and traumas that he's had in his own mind.
You are a camera. I am Ricardo. We are both the same now. You are a living part of my brain, which is simultaneously perhaps doing a better job of it, remembering these events which are going to unfold.
It's interesting that he chose on his 21st birthday to put himself in front of the camera and talk to the camera as if it were a person. Now, even that, in and of itself, talks to his loneliness.
Comfort is what I seek in speaking to you.
It's quite a sad statement from a 21-year-old who should be going out enjoying life, but here he is. The camera is really his form of intimacy or being a friend, and he says he's going to document his life, his art, and he sees this as an art form.
Look at this beautiful face. This cute, innocent, sweet and shy thing.
He made very clear declarative statements about how he hated people who weren't white, and this was really the trigger for why he went on this pathway of violence and destruction. It was about Björk dating a black man, which he found utterly unacceptable, and that talks to his entitlement and his psychopathology.
Look, I don't give a shit about him. So be it. Whose fault is that? That's right. That's her fault. And that's completely unacceptable to me.
All the time, Björk was blissfully unaware of her involvement in Ricardo Lopez's mental demise.
The demise happens over a period of time. You see him putting on more weight. You see less self-care.
He was getting angrier and angrier when he thought about the fact that Björk was with Goldie, and this is where he started planning his revenge.
I know many people would say, you can't possibly love somebody you don't know. Love is something with time. You know what love is? Love is a chemical, okay? There's many, many things about her that I do not approve of, and it really turns turns my insides out like that in pain.
Lopez now made the most extraordinary threat against his love idol.
When I watched that video, I thought to my mind, he has a plan, and his plan is not to be forgotten. Not to be forgotten by her, and not to be forgotten by us.
I want to be the biggest influence in her life, the person who, the most influential, the most important person who changed her life more than anybody else, okay? The guy who took her life, okay? Now, oddly enough, people get interested in a person like that. That would be the only reason why anybody would sit through, dozens and dozens of hours of unedited home diaries, which I'm making.
It was becoming clear that he was on a mission to maim or to kill Björk. For the next 9 months, the camera became his way of documenting his intentions.
Lopez's anger over Björk's relationship with Goldie intensified to the point that he not only wanted to punish her, but he wanted to kill her. He had many ways in his head that he was going to do this. One of them was sending HIV-tainted needles to her house.
He talks about the fact that he would pretend to be from a company in New York that puts together pop-up books, and that he would send her a business folder that when she opens it, it will contain AIDS. And he said that that was some kind of poetic justice because she's dating a black man.
Master Blaster. That's a hypodermic needle. Upon depressing, my God! Those 2 hypodermic needles are going to poke her thumbs, thus introducing into her bloodstream HIV contaminated blood. I'm gonna have to get that from a hooker. I'm gonna fuck her and get it. No, I'm gonna pay her some money and extract the blood. Details later.
During his roller coaster recordings, Lopez veered from lucidity to complete psychosis.
There are those moments where he really does understand what's going on, but then in the next breath he says something completely irrational of, well, Björk, who's so beautiful and she's white and she's with a black man, which is so unacceptable, I'm going to have to kill her. And he says it in such a way that it's like saying the sun is shining today, that you may miss it because there was no drama really attached to it. So again, this is a really a very real insight into his mind and his inner narrative of what's going on, and you see him chart his demise.
This link that was holding me to this earth for each day is gone. Is what I'm doing an act of vengeance because of this? I'm not exactly sure, but I am going to destroy her.
At times he's angry. There's a couple of entries where he's saying, I'm angry, I'm really annoyed by something normally to do with his work and his brother George intervening.
On one occasion, an Asian restaurant owner complains about Ricardo's pest control capabilities.
He's challenged by the owner where he says he hasn't cleaned well enough, and you see him getting very angry and vengeful.
I am really fucking pissed off. This fucking Chinese motherfucker, Japanese motherfucker, whatever he is, okay? That's a fucking insult to me, okay? I'm fucking offended. I'm gonna take care of the problem. Because I like to do good work, especially fucking killing. Okay, I like to do good work. And I'm fucking insulted at the fact that he says that I'm no good. Okay, if I don't see one fucking roach in there, I'm gonna make that fucking place into like a hurricane disaster. He says, I didn't move everything. Okay, I'm gonna fucking turn all the benches, the refrigerator, everything fucking upside down, motherfucker. I'm gonna turn that place inside out.
In a stalker's world, you would expect to see these moments where there are vengeful moments or resentment. There are also moments where he talks about Björk and the fact that he knows that he isn't really liking her for having sex with her, And he makes that point. He says that he doesn't masturbate over her pictures, which actually I find hard to believe. I'm not sure that that is the truth, because the fact that he brings it up probably implies that that's exactly what he's doing. But then he says that, you know, he knows that he couldn't please her and that he's not capable of an emotional relationship because of his emotional condition. So again, he has some understanding that he hasn't got the ability to connect with someone or the emotional capability to stay in a relationship with someone.
Never really fantasized too much about being in a relationship with her, because I can't be in a relationship with anybody because of my emotional condition. So it's very hard to pretend I don't have that, you know. The most I've ever wanted to do with her is just hold, you know, just like, I've had many fantasies of just holding her, you know, not being in a relationship with her because I'm no good for that, but just, oh man, I mean, I've mastered the art of self-embracement.
His level of inadequacy penetrated to the core of his personality, to the sexual level. He felt inadequate in every single way. He felt that he was a dog, he said. He thought he smelled like a dog, that he was just as low as could possibly be.
Lopez was clearly in a downward spiral. Attempts to intervene fell far short of what someone with his difficulties needed.
His symptoms were clear on the camera by taking his own video diary. So why weren't more questions being asked? Because this wasn't someone just suffering from depression and low self-esteem. This was someone suffering with far more than that.
He only saw a psychiatrist for a couple of visits, and he told the psychiatrist he was feeling nervous and so on. He was given something like Xanax for anxiety. Now, some people have said, well, how did the psychiatrist miss this? Miss what? There's no way a psychiatrist could get into your mind and know what you're thinking unless you reveal some of this to him, which he did not. And so all Lopez really told the psychiatrist was that he was nervous, he had trouble sleeping, this sort of thing. So the psychiatrist just took it at face value.
His family had intervention opportunities to go round there, and it doesn't sound like there were many friends, and unfortunately that's what happens when somebody has a mental disorder. People drop away.
He didn't have no friends, really, except for his brother, and he just tagged along and lived in his own mind. So whatever psychological disturbance he had was really under the radar screen. It was all internal.
But the Icelandic pop star was still at the center of his world.
Björk has been an incredible part of my mind since '93. Since I first saw her. I've started with a crush, you know, and ended up with an obsession, which I'm not embarrassed to admit, no, it's an obsession.
His family do try and make an intervention, and he does talk about that. His brother George, who is checking, he sees it as checking up on him, but he's actually doing check-ins to see how he is. And his mother, who's calling, who's again clearly concerned about his mental health. And he then has an understanding that he does have, he calls them emotional conditions.
I got a call from my mom. Very, very worried about me and stuff like that, and my dad, you know. Well, I wanted to know if I had a gun again, you know. He goes, are you sure you don't have any arms with you, any weapons with you? I said, no, Mom. He goes, are you sure? I said, yeah, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. She goes, if you love us, please don't ever buy a gun. Because I think probably I'm going to kill myself or something, I don't know. I don't know what George has told him.
If you're calling from a distance, like his mother was, he's telling you what you probably want to hear. And when his mother says, but, you know, please don't get a gun, but that's the next thing he goes out and does.
July 1996, Ricardo made a fateful purchase.
A date that will live in infamy. Yes, my friends, like I said I would, I walked over there and I purchased a Taurus 38 caliber revolver.
It was unclear what Ricardo Lopez was going to do with the gun. But another event in his life began to accelerate his deterioration.
Thursday, I quit my job.
Well, what he then says thereafter sounds much more like he was fired because he wasn't doing a good job.
Sooner or later, I knew everything was going to catch up with me because I started getting lazy, real lazy. Put on extra weight, moving around, everything got real tiresome. You know, I didn't even draw, I didn't even do nothing, no reading, no nothing. I just sat in front of the TV, and that's it.
Unfortunately, him losing his job just gives him more time to spend in his head thinking and ruminating about Björk and what he's going to do, but also carrying out, like now starting to do the preparatory behaviour. So it accelerates things. And again, it's a risk factor when someone loses their job and they are fixated and obsessed with another.
With time on his hands, Lopez now began to put his plan to kill Björk into action. But the plan had changed.
I'm going to do it somewhat different. The AIDS thing. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to do that. Why? Because I don't have AIDS that I know of. To obtain it is going to be very, very, very difficult. Very complicated to ensure a successful contamination. So what am I left with? Right now, I have two options. I'm 85%. I'm using hydrochloric acid.
Eventually, he settled on this letter bomb that he was going to send directly to her apartment. And the idea was that Björk would open it and it would disfigure her or hopefully kill her. But his idea was then he would commit suicide, and he firmly believed that they would then be united in heaven.
I'm going to get the hydrochloric acid. But right now, I'm a little nervous, but I got to play smooth. I'm an artist who wants to buy hydrochloric acid in order for his metal work to create some interesting textures in his work. My name is Ricardo Lopez, just in case I ask for ID. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
So now we've gone from talking about things to doing things, and these are all important steps when we understand the pathways to violence. From someone just ruminating about something to then doing preparatory behaviour to then carrying it out. When professionals are assessing things at early stages, these are the assessments, and the thoughts that have to go through our minds about whether someone presents a credible risk, and here is somebody who absolutely did.
Okay. This is 36% hydrochloric acid. I, of course, wanted 100%. I am going to call to find out if I can get something stronger because I'm going all the way with this project. I'm not settling for second best.
Determined to succeed, Lopez wanted to inflict as much harm on Björk as possible.
We learn through his video diary that he's read books like John Douglas's Mindhunter and Crime Lab and other FBI books. So he's clearly wanting to obtain knowledge about how to commit a crime. Hence he goes on a quest to get 100% proof sulfuric acid.
Now for the surprise of the day. You see that? Sulfuric acid.
These are conscious, intentional and lucid thoughts that we're hearing. But then we see other diary entries where he's drinking, and he's drinking, I think he said 6 beers in a row. So when you add in alcohol to somebody who has a mental disorder, who's fixated and obsessed, who's lost their job, what's happening is we're just layering, or he's layering risk factor upon risk factor. There's no protective factors in here.
But the news that Goldie was to marry Björk just had the effect of accelerating things.
He wants to take action far sooner. So this is when the preparatory behaviour starts, going and buying the sulfuric acid and the experiments. He manages to get a book and he puts the sulfuric acid in that with the detonator, a trigger point.
The plan is for that package to arrive, Björk will open it, the book will explode and spray her with acid.
So if the bomb didn't kill her which he thought it may not, the acid would have disfigured her and she would have known all about him because she could then see the video. She could see him there with her pictures in the background, with her music playing. She'd know about the diary, and then she could see himself kill himself. She would be able to see that, and then he would always be a part of her life forever.
Lopez even went as far as to test the trigger for his acid bomb.
Now that there's fucking art. I'm like, oh, forget it. That, I mean, all over her face, everything all over it, especially all over here. Wow, man. Wow. When she takes that thing off, she's gonna rub it off. Fucking beautiful, man. Fucking beautiful.
This isn't a man who's prepared to just go and get a gun or a knife and attack this person. He wants it to be a performance. There has to be some sort of artistry in this. There has to be some sort of irony or some sort of performance within this act.
By September 1996, Lopez had become less coherent. His mood was more aggressive.
Lopez's video diaries became more frequent and more enraged. He recorded one video where he talks about he'd wasted 8 months on Björk and she'd ran off with this other guy. His infatuation had been worthless and all these other kind of things.
So I'm gonna fuck you up, Björk. Woo, this out. I'm gonna feel like I'm on drugs. I'm gonna bring my parents and my family a lot of pain, a lot of shame, but I was not asked to. None of us are asked to be brought into this world. It is a crime. It is a fucking crime to bring children into this world, and you shall pay for it. We live in a world of monsters. Do you understand that? A world of monsters.
September 12th was the day he decided to put his plan into action. The tape is entitled Last Day, Ricardo Lopez.
Okay, let me see if I forgot. Before I put the sulfuric acid, what else do I need? Well, I think that's about it.
He would put the bomb into a book, and a book would explode with acid.
And pretended that he was sending her a manuscript about a movie that she was to star in.
Well, it's on.
With the acid bomb completed, Ricardo prepared to leave his apartment.
This was the day where he went to the post office, took that book bomb, and mailed it to Björk.
This is a life and death matter right here. If I don't make it back, that means something happened. I am very, very, very nervous. I'm certainly not going to get arrested. I'm going to blow my head off. Oh man, I better hurry up and go now. I'm going to go now.
Having successfully mailed the bomb, he returned to start the transformation for the second part of his master plan.
It's a little weird feeling, finally doing what you accomplish. And I have to... Will this be the suicide tape? Yeah, this should be the suicide tape.
At that point, I think he really, really lost touch with reality. When you look at the video and you see him shaving his head, degrading himself.
He painted his face red and green, and we're not sure why. I think it's because looking at himself in the mirror, this red and green face did not look like him.
I mean, this is somebody who really lost touch with reality.
He spends 20 minutes setting that up, and I would imagine that to him, you know, this is sort of the end of his life's work. That's how he saw it.
It's 12. And I'm almost ready to roll. I'm not nervous at all, actually.
The video pans to a canvas behind him where he has put it on the wall, and it's going to be called The Best of Me, September the 12th. This is his final art piece. This is him putting the best of him, i.e. his brain, onto a canvas.
He actually leaves a message to the FBI written on the wall saying that, you know, this is all the evidence in this case. And so he's clearly thinking about being successful in what he does. And again, he's coherent in these last stages, and he's saying these are the last moments of my life.
Okay, it's time.
What happens next is one of the most extraordinary and disturbing events in the history of celebrity obsession.
I've got my gun. I just want to say that my last words are my last words. Well, fuck the world, that's my last words. And fuck Björk and her nigger-loving self. Nonetheless, I was gonna die anyway, not because of her, but rather because of my own reasons.
You see him get up again, change the music, still to Björk.
This is the last song. After this, I'm dead.
You feel that there's an energy change, and he's breathing very deeply, and he's almost rocking in a meditative state, and he's got the gun in his hand.
So as Björk's song, I Remember You, finishes, he himself says, "This is for you," puts the gun in his mouth, pulls the trigger.
His intent was for that his blood to splatter upon that sign, and that the best of him was his blood. That is not what happened on the tape. He slumped out of the camera frame, and shortly after that, the tape actually stopped rolling.
Very sobering and a very tragic end, quite frankly.
Ricardo Lopez's family was shocked. They could not believe that their son, their brother, was capable of such destruction.
It was some time before Lopez was discovered.
4 days later, after Ricardo killed himself, his neighbors reported a foul smell.
Neighbors called the police. There was also some bodily fluids dripping through the ceiling to the apartment below.
Police kicked the door down. They found this guy painted red and green, shaved, and had shot himself.
It was extremely bizarre and eerie. Video camera was up. Ricardo had his head blown off, was dead. He was lying there, his body painted, no clothes on, head shaved, with Björk's pictures and writing on the walls.
It said the 8mm videos contained terrorist matter sent to the FBI.
The police were really great in this case. They played back the video. It wasn't long before he actually shot himself that he held up the package that he sent to Björk very clearly with her name and her address in London, left, came back about 20 minutes later and said, "I mailed the bomb." So the police knew that a bomb was mailed.
The bomb was in transit. Police knew it would take 5 days to arrive. They were now in a race against time.
They called Interpol, who called Scotland Yard, and they intercepted the bomb before they had a chance to open it up. The police said that it was a viable bomb. Had they opened it, it would have exploded.
It actually was going to Björk's management office, not Björk's personal residence. So it never really would have gotten to Björk, potentially.
Members of her management company's life was saved. I think that was an absolute miracle.
At a press conference, Björk appeared visibly upset.
Björk was actually in a very, very distressed state, telling reporters it is so sad that someone would shoot their face off just because of her music.
She expressed the fact that she couldn't sleep, that she was anxious, that she ultimately had to leave her London home because she was so freaked out that someone had it in his mind's eye to kill her. She was also really frightened for her son.
When you have a celebrity like this, someone who's internationally loved, someone who's known, they would have to amp up their security. They would have to look over their shoulders all the time.
And I think it affects her life continuously because she knows that there are unhinged people out there that are capable of doing these sorts of things. At another level, though, she felt a great deal of compassion for him because she saw what happened. She learned about Ricardo Lopez, and she realized how disturbed and tormented and how really sick he must be. And so she actually sent a sympathy card, to Lopez's family.
Björk's experience with Ricardo Lopez, although never personal, had left an indelible mark on her. It's ensured that she's wary about all further interactions with her fan base. For Lopez, though, his celebrity obsession with the Icelandic singer had a tragic conclusion, but could it have been averted?
A tragic end to a life that actually, with an intervention, he could have potentially have gone on to live, a much better life with a much more different quality of life.
His friends and family did see that he was obsessed with Björk. They definitely saw that. They just did not understand how deep, and they didn't understand the pain, and they probably didn't understand how serious he was.
Could Lopez have been helped, and could this whole thing have been prevented? I think it could have been, but it would require Lopez to be hospitalized and be treated effectively. But in order to hospitalize him, somebody would have to know what was going on internally with him. If he doesn't open up even a little bit, how would anybody know? He saw a psychiatrist, but some people said the psychiatrist should have picked up on that. Picked up on what? There's no way you can know that a person's thinking of killing somebody or even killing themselves unless they open up to you. They have to begin a process.
But questions remain about the rationale behind making the recordings and tapes of Ricardo Lopez's final hours available to the world.
To this day, I don't know why the FBI took the tape and then released it to journalists.
You can go onto the internet, onto YouTube, and see these videotapes. So now he is recognized. He is in this strange category of infamy where people know who he is. And in a way, he will always be affiliated with Björk. And that is part of what he wanted to achieve. So there's a disturbing nature to them releasing this video that gives him an infamy that in some ways I think is upsetting.
He wanted fame. He wanted notoriety. He wanted people to read his name in the paper. He wanted his video clips seen around the world. He wanted, most importantly, for Björk to recognize him and for her to know his name. So in that sense, maybe he did accomplish his goal.